Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Friends. And my guest for this week's episode is somebody I had the privilege of getting to meet when we shared the platform together at an event in Manchester in England, where this young man had traveled across from San Diego to be able to share his message with a room full of people who worked in the optical sector, helping them understand how what they could do is to see a better future for themselves. This individual is an Olympic athlete, a world record holder. I believe holds a quantity of medals that I could hardly lift myself. And the person in question is the young man, the wonderfully talented Lex Gillette. So Lex, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Phil. I'm glad to be here.
Lex, tell me, just because I'm fearful of getting these statistics wrong, is just how many things have you achieved in your career as an athlete?
I have 4 Paralympic medals. I have 4 world champion titles. I have the world record in the long jump for totally blind athletes currently. And there's a bunch of other things, but I think the main things I just mentioned, and the bigger thing is training right now for Tokyo 2020, which it's been postponed to the summer of 2021. So trying to manage during this time, and hopefully once they open the city up and open the country up, I'll be able to return to training and get ready to represent Team USA.
So Lex, you made a point as you shared some of your accolades, your successes, and what's in your future. You just dropped it into conversation there that you happen to hold the world record, not for the long jump in the Paralympics, but also you noted to the fact that you cannot see and that you're blind and without vision. Now, Words with Friends is a show where we talk about one singular word. And the word that I wanted to pick for us to be able to jam out on today is that word vision. Why do you think I might have picked Lex Gillette, of all people, to have a conversation around the word vision?
Yeah, you know what? I think that, that's been the one element of my life that I've had to tap into that has literally gotten me from losing sight, becoming blind, to becoming an athlete, speaker, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been such a powerful element for me that has helped me ascend to new heights in life.
If you wouldn't mind, talk to me about the experience of you losing your sight. How did that all come about? What was the journey?
Yep, I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and as a kid, I was doing the average things that kids were doing. I swam, I played baseball, I drew pictures, played video games, and one particular day when I was at home, I was in the bathroom, getting myself cleaned up for bed, and started noticing that my sight was blurred for no reason at all. And I knew that something was wrong once I had gotten onto the bathroom counter and couldn't really see my reflection in the mirror. So I told my mom. She was thinking that, you probably just got something in your eyes from playing outside earlier that day. We cleaned my eyes out with some water, didn't clear my sight any. Next action was next day, went to the doctor, and after an examination, they said I needed to have an emergency operation because I was suffering from retina detachments. That led to a string of 10 operations that I had when I was 8 years old. So in and out of school, in and out of the hospitals, operating rooms, and it was challenging. It was tough. I mean, obviously those words are understatements, because as a young child, you're going into the operating room and expecting that the doctors are going to fix this issue and clear your sight up. And that's what happened after a few of those operations. I came out being able to see the world clearly again, but after 3 to 4 weeks, my sight would get blurry again, each time a little more than what it did the time before. And it was a tough road. There were many of times where they would literally have to hold me down to get me on the operating table, and I would grab to the door frames, trying to keep them from rolling the table down the hallways in the hospital, and there's just a lot going on. But after the last one, the 10th operation that year, the doctor said that there was nothing else they could do, and they said that I would eventually become blind. So from that point forward, it was going home, going through my normal routine, going to sleep at night, waking up the next morning. And I would see a little less than what I did the day before, until finally one day I woke up and I couldn't make out much of anything.
Wow. What was the feelings that you went through when you hit the reality of the fact that you might not be able to have the vision to see any longer?
Uncertainty, fear, just overwhelming sense of just a grieving type of feeling. And I mean, those were the initial ones, just being afraid and not being able to see anymore, not being able to see my family, my mom, my neighborhood, to be able to do all of the things that I was so used to doing. It was definitely disheartening, for sure. And then as I continued to grow up, I feel different emotions as it related to socially, being able to be open and transparent about what I could see, what I couldn't see, what sort of help I needed, what sort of help I didn't need it. Having experiences with others who didn't understand, who don't understand, and trying to explain to them, like, hey, this is what I need, can you help me out? And having to experience some people just, for whatever reason, not feeling comfortable enough to help, and on the contrary, to having people who were willing to get out there and take a stab at it and help me out. So I mean, it's so many emotions. You just pick the arena the arena of life, whether it was just personal, professional, athletics. There was always some sort of challenge, but fortunately, again, I had some really solid people in my life who helped me establish this framework, and to be able to walk into situations comfortably, and kind of advocate for myself.
When did athletics come into this journey, into this story for you?
Athletics came, well, of course, I mentioned before I lost my sight, it was, me playing backyard sports and baseball and swimming. And after I lost my sight, it had to have been a few years, 3-4 years after that, when I had joined my my middle school track team. To be honest with you, that was literally just, I wasn't competitive. I was out there hanging out with friends. It was a camaraderie type of deal. And more so than anything, for me, it was really building my confidence and letting me know that, hey, I have a team here, and people want me to be here, and they love
Yeah.
having my presence. And, it was awesome. But once I got into high school, that's when things changed, and I participated in this fitness test where we had to do the standing long jump. You stand in one spot and you jump as far as you can. And I was one of the best jumpers in my school. And my teacher, he was excited because my mom kept me in public school. So all I really know is interacting and participating alongside sighted individuals. And now I was beating a lot of my friends who could see. And he introduced me to sport and long jump specifically. And we developed a strategy so that I would be able to compete successfully and safely. And yeah, and to your point again, there were certainly emotions and challenging feelings that I had to tackle when I was first introduced to sport. But we were able to kind of sift through those things and make it work.
So what you're talking about here is that somebody saw something in you, right? You attempted this standing long jump, you outperformed.
Out there, I lost you for a second, Phil.
Hello.
I think, okay, I got you now.
Got me back?
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
I think my mic pack went, and then I have for your understanding, I think I just had a storm open up on the top of my office building, which is fun.
Oh,
But
man.
you can hear me better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just change one setting, and I got you back. Okay, cool. So what I was saying is that you had a moment where somebody in that education system noticed something about you, identified some form of peak performance in you from you doing that standing long jump piece to then saying they saw more for your future than you saw for yourself in that moment. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and how important a moment was that for you in your life to have somebody that recognized a piece of talent in you?
It was huge. I mean, at that particular time, I was on the path to graduating from high school, graduating from college, getting my degree, and finding a job. My mom wanted me to She wanted me to be able to go into the world and contribute to society just like the next person. She wanted me to see that despite the circumstances, I could still go out and be independent. Independent achievement was huge in my household, being able to do things on my own and knowing that once you get out into the world, it's like you got to be able to do these things
Yeah.
on your own. And so to have someone who saw something else in me, especially from an athletic standpoint. I gravitated towards sports. I love all types of sports. Um, that was huge, and I began to see that I could compete at a high level, an elite level, and I think even more than that, I started seeing more about myself. Just from uh, I talk about trust a lot, and in the sport, I have my guide who's he in the long jump, he's standing there and he's clapping and yelling, so I know which direction to run and I know where to jump from. And in the beginning, it was I didn't really trust him because I was afraid that I would fall down or I was afraid I might run into something. But I think even more than that, it was I didn't trust myself. And I think that a lot of times we find ourselves in these spaces where that's really the case. But for him to see that much in me and to believe that much in my abilities, all I could think about was, all right, if I live 15, 20, 25 years down the road, and look back on this and didn't try, um, what sort of opportunities or potential or possibilities or whatever, what would I be ridding myself of if I just didn't, get out there, give it a shot, trust myself, and really take a chance on, what this person is talking about. And I didn't want to continue living life having that thought in the back of my head of all right, could that have been greatness? Could that have turned out to be, medals and records and traveling the world? So I gave it a shot, and it was still challenging in the beginning. But Mr. Whitmer, Coach Whitmer, the gentleman who we're talking about right now, he was so adamant, and he was just always reiterating, oh, man, you can do this. I see this. I see this. And when you have someone who paints that vision for you and literally devotes their time and energy into you, it's contagious. And I just felt like I had no I had no choice but to keep going out there and trying it.
When did it change from you, though, that when you went from him being able to see your talent and see your future to you being able to see it and believe it for yourself?
We traveled to a sports camp specifically for blind and visually impaired athletes in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And it was one of those deals where for a week, you have a number of different sports and events that you try out. And at the end of the week, you compete against the other participants or other attendees. So I went up there and chose my events. And one of them was standing long jump. I'm sorry, there was a choice that I had. I could either do standing long jump or running long jump. And me, naturally, I was like, well, I just finished whooping up on people in my high school. They can see, and now I can choose standing long jump and compete against people who can't see. So I should be able to get this easy win. And Coach Whitmer, he said, no, we're gonna do running long jump. And I, naturally kind of resisted a bit, and he said, no, we're gonna try it. We're gonna do that. And knowing him and knowing the expectations that he had for me, I said, well, you know what, let's try it out. And over that week, we worked at it. But at the end of the week, we had this competition. And going into the camp, I knew that, I had heard stories of this one athlete, and he was like the Michael Jordan of this sports camp, and he's always winning. And at the end of the camp, it was time for us to compete. And I ended up knocking him off. I ended up beating him. And that was literally the match was lit then. And we returned to North Carolina. I joined my high school track team, and it was on and popping from there. It was amazing.
And then it's just being like one thing after another that you've been chasing the next victory.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I got to go back a little on this though, right?
Okay.
And I'm just trying to wrap my head around this.
Okay.
I don't know what it's like to not be able to see other than putting a blindfold on or holding my hands over my eyes.
Yeah.
Imagining doing that and thinking, okay, I could do that, and I could do a standing long jump into a pit of sand, into something. And I think I could give that a go and probably like not hurt myself too badly.
Yeah.
I can probably wrap my head around with a blindfold, with a trusted individual, that I could walk in any direction and trust their commands that I wouldn't hurt myself. Running feels a lot riskier. I don't know if I could see myself doing that quite literally. Yeah. Now we're going to turn this into, I'm going to run, and my stride is going to have to land me somewhere close to the line that I'm supposed to jump from.
Right.
I'm not only going to jump, I'm going to jump at full speed as fast as I possibly can, and then jump as far as I possibly can, landing into something that I believe is there, but I haven't seen for myself. Is that what you're doing? Is that it?
Yeah. That was more so the beginning stages. At this point now, I feel like when I get on the runway, I have a very clear image and clear vision of the environment and area where I am. And I, a lot of times, feel as though nothing is really different from someone who's on the runway who has 20/20 eyesight.
So how did you get from being, heck no, there's no way that I'm doing that, to this level of confidence that you think that you have no disadvantage in this environment than somebody who has 20/20 vision? How did that journey evolve?
I think it was literally just, it started with that sports camp of first. Well, I think that first and foremost, it started at my home, the home environment. And I say that because my mom challenged me to just imagine, you laid out everything from a long jump standpoint as it relates to getting on the runway, running, jumping, landing into the sand pit. But even before that, it was, okay, how can I orient myself and navigate from my front door of my house and get to the bus stop so I can get to school? So learning when to make a left-hand turn, learning when to make a right-hand turn. How many steps does it take for me to get from my front door to the school bus? And then what do I need to do to get from the school bus to my first class for the day? And then learning to get from the classroom to the cafeteria so I can eat, get from the cafeteria to the gym, get from the gym back to the school bus. And then the environment change. And I went from, how do I get from my front door to the grocery store, the nearest grocery store, the nearest post office, and all of these things. What it was doing was creating these images in my head. And I point back to when I was able to see, because having had those 8 years of sight, I think was huge for me, having some sort of visual reference as to what things look like. So when you transition to not being able to see, you still have some sort of reference point as to what things look like. And me walking around and discovering and exploring, if I do it a couple times, 2 3 4 times, and then you bump it up more, and it becomes a place that I repeat constantly, like school. Now I've literally have this map in my head of what the environment looks like, to the point where I probably could walk around those environments without that cane in my hand, because I just, this, the images is engraved in my mind. And so since it started at that point, when I transitioned to athletics, the biggest thing was trying to get over the fear of even thinking that I could actually do it. And once I was able to get over that, I was now tapping into the skills, and that that skill that I was that I had developed as a child, with learning my environment, and learning where I was in space, and being aware of the things that were around me. So even to this point, when I go to a competition, my guide and we walk the length of the runway. So I know how long it is. We walk he shows me how wide the runway is. He will show me where the takeoff point is, where I'm jumping from, and he shows me where that takeoff board is in relation to the sand pit itself. Then we walk the width of the pit, and then the length of the pit. So it's creating the parameters, it's creating the boundaries that I have to be able to, to go out there and compete. I fixate that image in my mind, and the more that I feel like I can see when we go through that walkthrough, if you will, it lets me know what I'm dealing with. And now when I step onto the runway to compete, I'm able to literally just let it all hang out, because I've drawn up this image or this vision in my mind.
That's really powerful, Lex, just thinking that through. And even just to get to the point of you being able to compete with that, but to then go on and outperform every other competitor, to then go on and achieve world records. Is that something you saw yourself doing?
Initially, I know I saw the medals and being able to represent Team USA, but I think that once I went to my first major international competition and got on the podium, a lot more of those things started coming into my mindset of, okay, you can win a gold medal, or you can be the best to ever do it. So it certainly was a few years after I had started, for sure.
So the lessons you've gone through to be able to learn to see without having your sight, how do you translate those lessons so that other people can understand a new definition of vision through Lex Gillette's eyes?
A lot of it is, I have my slogan, which is no need for sight when you have a vision. And that basically was developed because in 2008 I had graduated from college. I had just returned from my second games, and I knew that I wanted to continue sports. However, I wanted something more from just the sport in my life as a whole. I was 23 years old. I was just trying to figure out life at the end of the day, and in a reflective space. And up until that point, I kind of came to the conclusion that, all right, well, sight really hasn't determined your success. It hasn't been the sole thing. That it's not the sole element that determines our success. It's that vision and being able to see things beyond the horizon and before they exist, and then being able to develop a plan so that you can conquer it. So at that time, I knew that I wanted to speak more. I knew that I wanted to use that and leverage that so I would be able to get sponsors for sport. And I also knew that if I could, figure out a way to articulate myself and kind of come to that conclusion of, all right, well, this is what I did as someone who's blind, but really at the end of the day, we're all doing these things whether you can see or not. If I can articulate those things and get people to understand, then that would be the name of the game for me. So I think that in answering your question, it's literally yeah, like a lot of my life is sport, and I've been able to do some awesome things in sport. But um, what really helps me to relate to everyone is just the literal things that I had to learn as a kid. Persevering through the challenging moments, or setting those goals. I mean, they sound so cliche and so like super simple, but those are literally the things that help me being able to be vulnerable, to be transparent, to be able to trust others, to trust myself, to um, have like courage, despite the craziness of this world, or the craziness in the experiences that we face. Um, it's literally. I wish I could be like super introspective and say, uh, something just wildly introspective, but I mean that's literally all it was. And packaging all of those things together is what helped me to really conquer this vision. And
It's huge, Gillette. It's huge. And the mindset that you're articulating here is a big deal. Is the ability to have that strength of thought to take your future and put it into your own hands by seeing something that is different to what exists today and then planning the micro steps down to be able to make that a reality is a giant part of what is missing in many people's success strategy, right? Whatever that might be, whether it's business, personal life, whether it's performance in sport, it's the ability to be able to see something that's much bigger into the future and then understand what needs to be done from today to that point in time to be able to architect that reality. That's
right,
what you're explaining so beautifully is that's how you've gone out and achieved success in all these sporting arenas.
right,
Taking that methodology and that mindset that exists around having a vision on what that means and applying it to the current reality that we're all experiencing around some of the inequality that exists in the world and some of the things that are being very much shown in our faces around some of the injustice that is becoming far and far more apparent to the many. How do we take some of those guiding principles about vision and utilize what you've done to be able to carve out a better future given your circumstances, to carve out a better future from where we are now to where we could be?
well, I think one of the huge things about vision is that it allows you to see hope in better times, in the face of challenge, of difficult moments, especially right now given the current state of the country. I know it's super hard to see beyond the recent events with George Floyd, and it's super sad. It's something that absolutely should not have happened. And of course, we've seen a lot of injustices with people of color, more recently, and just all through history, right? And so I definitely understand when it's in your face and you can see it, it's hard, it's challenging. But what we really have to latch on to is getting out here and to create that positive change, and seeing that, okay, let's let's try to help establish these policies, and let's go to the polls and vote. Let's even something as simple as let's actually go to the polls every couple of years instead of just focusing on the presidential excuse me,
Yeah.
the presidential election, because there's so many factors, and as you mentioned it earlier, breaking it down into just super duper small steps, there's so many things that go into it. So if we can get it down to uh, being able to make our communities better, to vote for the officials and the people who are going to help us in our communities, and hopefully people will do that across other regions and other communities, then it creates a overwhelming effect where we can create bigger change. And I think that, again, that's the testament of the vision, and knowing that, all right, it's difficult out here, but this is a change that we want to see. I see this. I believe in this. I know that this can happen. Let's band together. Let's develop a strategy, come up with a structure and some steps, and let's hammer it. And also understand that it's not going to be an overnight change, and just latching on to that vision and allowing that to be that magnetic pull that gets you out of bed every day, and that keeps you maneuvering through that day, staying focused on the task at hand, accomplishing those goals and those micro steps, and just trusting that, what, this is going to get me and the rest of my team, my community, people of color, whatever we're talking about, this is what is going to help us get to that destination point.
And I get all of that. What I struggle with is, what if somebody can't see it? Because you say, I see this, I believe in it, I know that this can happen. And once you get to that point, the steps start to become clear, the obstacles start to become smaller, you start to be able to find ways to be able to overcome stuff.
Right.
But what if you don't see it? How can you put yourself in a position that you can actually start to be able to see a different future?
I think that I think back to when I was with Coach Whitmer, and when I first started long jump, and you so eloquently put how he saw this vision before I did. I didn't see it, and that is the testament of what we can do for each other. The likelihood of you have to have some people in your life who you're connected with, and people who may see something within you, and you may be in that same space where it's like, I don't know what to do, or I don't see it, or nah, that's not for me. But to stay latched on to those individuals is crucial in our success, because Coach Whitmer, he was devoted, he was relentless, he was, look, like he expected for me to get from that current state to like seeing beyond that current state, seeing beyond that current reality. And so I think that in moving forward and trying to get that vision, sometimes a lot of times it will come from other people, and them helping you to kind of clean off your lens, if you will, so that you can really truly see what's possible. I don't think that it's necessarily, I think that at some point in life, we all will be in a state where we can't see figuratively, but there's always that point where, it's someone or something that helps you, come to that mindset of, I get it. And that's all you need, is that glimmer of hope. And once you have that, I mean, you can be off to the races.
And sometimes that's just looking at things through somebody else's eyes, right? That's what you're talking about here, is that if you can't see it, how do you get to be able to see through somebody else's eyes,
Yeah.
borrowing their lens until they've helped you clear yours? I love that metaphor altogether.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not to like totally inundate the listeners, but I also think about, I asked my college roommate, I asked him if I could drive his car one day. And, and so he was like, oh man, you're crazy. But I ended up convincing him, and we went to the parking lot, and I got into the driver's side. He got into the passenger seat. We're in a huge empty parking lot late at night, so there's no one around. And I just remember putting that seatbelt on and feeling a lot of the same feelings that I had when I had lost my sight, like uncertainty, fear. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to mess up this car. And the funny thing about this is we actually took his girlfriend's car because he said, you think I'm going to take that chance on my car? Absolutely not. And so he's in the passenger side, and he's literally verbally giving me directions. All right, press the gas pedal down. All right, keep going straight, keep going straight. I want you to turn the steering wheel to the left in 3, 2, 1, left, 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 left. All right, good. There you go. Great, great, great. All right, you can press the gas a little more. Don't be shy. Keep going. All right, good. We're going to turn the steering wheel to the right in 3, 2, 1. Boom, 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 boom. Right, 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 right. All right, there you go. Straighten it out. There you go. Good, good, good. And I just will never forget that experience, because it was exciting, but it was also, it was frightening. I had a little bit of uncertainty. But again, talking to your point, when you have that connection with someone, and someone who has the ability to see, and you develop that, that genuine kind of authentic connection, of course you're able to conquer things that you wouldn't be able to do alone. But at the same time, he had did something for me that I'll never forget. And that was, he made me forget that I was blind.
Wow.
And that's the power that we have when we connect with each other. You have the ability to make people forget about their shortcomings, or what they may believe to be shortcomings, and really gets them on the right track. And yeah, you're allowing them to kind of see through you. And
I think about this on a huge number of levels, and being in this conversation with you right now is helping me be able to see through your eyes a little, as to what it's like to be a blind guy, as to what it's like to try and perform at an elite level without the ability to be able to see. And what I'm wondering is, if we spent more time to be able to see the world through other people's eyes, what we then might be able to do is we then might be able to show up with understanding and empathy of their point of view, and let them allow us to be able to see again. And quite literally, I don't know how many people have taken the time to get to truly understand this race issue by speaking to people who are affected by it.
Right.
As opposed to just prejudging it, but having the conversations with the people that matter. And if you don't have clarity on a vision for the future, then you probably need to speak to people who maybe do have clarity of a vision for the future, and see if you can get behind it.
Right.
And then the other lens I'm looking to borrow right now, and then I'd love you to talk to this, is the lens of children. Is the lens of people who are a generation younger than ourselves, and saying, what is their vision for the future? And then what part or what role can I play in helping to be able to move obstacles out the way so that future vision can become a reality? I feel like that's something I can get behind. What is your take on those two things?
As it relates to children, I do a lot of work with mentoring kids in at-risk areas around the country. And we always talk about pertinent life skills. And it's actually through a program called Classroom Champions. So I work with the kids throughout the duration of the school year, and each month is dedicated to a specific skill, like goal setting, teamwork, community, perseverance, what have you. And And the interesting thing about kids is that if you give them just give them the opportunity to experience different settings and different things. um, I think that the observation piece is huge. Observing how they react to certain challenges, observing what gets them excited, what really motivates them and inspires them, and then being able to use that information um, to figure out how to best teach them, because of course, like each kid has different learning styles,
Yeah.
and so I think on our part, being patient and being willing to take that time to learn about them. To your point again, um, conversing, letting them talk, letting them explain, and taking all that information into account, and being able to really elevate them to different levels, and to higher levels. And that's all I really ask. Me personally, when I'm dealing with certain situations, I would much rather you ask me and try to learn, um, and understand, so that you can clean your lens, so that you can understand and empathize with me, and know that like I'm good. I can tie my shoes by myself. I can
Yeah.
open a soda can by myself. But when you just automatically prejudge and assume, now you can be quite offensive at times, and I certainly, just having these preconceived notions is certainly not the way to go. Having the that open space, open air, to really put it all out there on the table, so you can create some educational moments, learn and understand, is certainly going to be crucial in being successful.
Hey, help me understand this based on that,
Okay.
and help me clean my lens on something.
Okay.
Is, our friendship was started from some of the pieces that we cross paths on through National Speakers Association, and then we worked this event together in Manchester, and following which I shot you a message on Instagram. Instagram is largely a visual platform,
Right.
and I sent you a direct message that you in turn would have needed to read.
Yeah.
How do you manage Instagram and then be able to then converse with me via direct message on Instagram without the ability to be able to read a message in the same way that I can?
Yep, that's a great question. So yes, Instagram is probably my least favorite platform because of visual nature. I do have a team who helps me with the photos and videos in terms of posting and making sure it looks right and aligns with who I am. I most times will come up with the captions and respond to comments, and to you and others respond to messages. So on my phone and also on my computer, I have a screen reader, and you turn the screen reader on, and what it does is just simply reads the elements of what's on the screen. Excuse me. And so it'll read text messages, it'll read emails, it will read direct messages, and then I'm able to tap the screen in a certain area. So everywhere that I touch on the screen, it lets me know audibly that, okay, these are your direct messages. This is a picture that was posted by LeBron James. This is the caption. It's reading all of those things. So when I get to a point where I can insert text, then the keyboard will pop up. I remember what the keyboard looks like, so I'm able to type that message in and hit the send button. So I mean, it's as simple
That's
as
pretty
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is very, very, very impressive. And I think for everyone listening in right now, it's just to understand how much we take for granted, and then how much you can step towards a change and embrace a change if you're prepared to be able to accept that different doesn't always need to be worse. Different is just
Yeah.
different sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that metaphor a lot into life, I think, is that how can I clean my lens? How can I clean my lens? How can I clean my lens? I think that's a giant lesson that you've gifted me today. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And just so you know too, there's another tip that I always like to let people know. Just if you find yourself in a situation, there's always two simple questions that are really helpful. And the first one is, excuse me, is, do you need help? Do you need any help? And that's huge because in my case, let's say I'm walking around in public, the average person, they always feel they always feel like I need help. Hey, sir, can I hold your hand while we cross the street, or do you need me to do this? And it's like, if you knew what I did on a daily basis, then you probably wouldn't ask me that question. I'm totally fine with navigating and things like that. But do you need help? And that gives me the opportunity to say yes or no. If I say no, then you can move on about your business. And that's not to say that you shouldn't. If I'm in danger, then I would expect for somebody to swoop in and say, "Oh, sorry,"
Yeah.
But for the sake of the example, if I say no, then you can move on and not worry. But if I say yes, then the follow-up question would be, "How can I help?" And there are different ways that people who are blind or visually impaired prefer to be helped. Some people may want to put a hand on the shoulder. Some people may prefer to put their hand on an elbow, or some people just may want to follow the sound of your voice. And so you're allowing them to let you know, all right, this is what I prefer. This is what I'm most comfortable with. And from your perspective, I would imagine that, okay, well, when I have someone giving me clear-cut direction, that makes my life super easy because they told me what I need to do. And then as you move forward and traverse through life, you may come about to a similar experience. And now you'll be a little more comfortable because you've had a little bit of experience. But those two questions are huge. Do you need help? How can I help? I feel like that'll make your life a lot easier.
And I like that in the context of being visually impaired.
Yeah.
If we take the metaphor of being visually impaired and then provide some acceptance that there is a large part of society, of which I would include myself within, that has been visually impaired to, say, the racial equality issue.
Right.
Where we haven't had 20/20 vision of what people have been experiencing. We have those same two scenarios, right? We have the ability to be able to say, what are the steps we can do to clean our lens? And I think that is borrowing the lens of others. And I believe that there is a lot of wisdom and experience out there, if you're prepared to listen to it, that will help you clean your own lens. For sure. And there's a lot of material to go read, a lot of material to watch and listen to. But this second part of this of, do you need help? And how can I help? I'd love to just be able to explore with you.
Yes.
So let's firstly take the question that if a white person is to ask a black person, do you need help in the area of racial equality? Is that an okay question to be able to ask?
I think that in that situation, that would be the equivalent of when I was saying that, okay, as a person who's blind or visually impaired, let's say I stepped into the road and there was a car coming.
Yep.
You visually see that you need to, hey, no, sir. There's no reason for you to ask, do you need help? Because it's obvious.
Yeah.
Help me. And so when you talk about the racial, the injustices and police brutality and mistreatment of people of color within the United States, you don't have to ask, do you need help? We need help. And you've seen it in videos, you've seen it in social media, the major media or whatever. So you just go ahead and skip to that and say, look, I need to listen. How can I help?
So we're going to get straight to the how can I help thing. And I think the important part I'm learning there is that we cannot assume that we understand that we know how to help.
Right.
It's this,
right.
humility of being able to enter into a scenario knowing you're prepared to help, but not knowing what the help looks like, and
Right.
letting them educate you on the help they're looking for.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, I won't ask that of you, but I'll encourage everybody to be thinking, and I know I'm certainly going to think about this myself, that my goal is to be nobody's hero in this. My goal is to be able to show up and help in the shadows and help in the background, to be able to clear more of the way so that other people can perform at their best, as opposed to think that I need to lift them up. So it's about moving obstacles out the way as opposed to helping somebody over the obstacle.
I like that.
Am I reading this right? I'm just thinking on the spot here whilst being recorded. So
Yeah, I mean, most certainly it is, obviously acknowledging the issue and acknowledging the problem and knowing that this is wrong, and then moving forward, having that conversation and knowing that sometimes it may get it may feel a little uncomfortable and get dicey at times. Um, but if you have the sole intent of being able to come to a solution that is going to um, give equality, and to your point again, kind of removing these obstacles, because there is a difference between removing an obstacle and overcoming an obstacle. Some things in life you can't. We all have obstacles, and we'll
yep.
have to overcome them. But some of them are obstacles that we should not have to encounter. And as it relates to racial, mistreatment and injustices, and all of those things against people of color, certainly having those conversations so uh, that we can eradicate this way of thinking, this mindset, so that we can enjoy society and the country and the world just like the next person.
No, I get it. I get it. Or I certainly get it at a conceptual level.
Yeah.
This has been really insightful, Lex. And I guess a question I need to ask of you is what is your vision for the future of humanity, the future of the United States of America, or the future of people getting along together? What do you see there?
Oh, that is a tough question. One of the things that pops to mind is, as a with all of the recent happenings within society, with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, the list goes on. Um, excuse me, I have a lot of friends, and a lot of them just so happen to be white, and they don't have, they're not they don't subscribe to racism, and I don't believe that all people who are white do. Um, but of course, there's a lot of people out there who do subscribe to racism. But the point that I'm trying to get at really is, some individuals have been approaching me and saying, "Oh man, this is tough. This has obviously been happening for a while." And when I say some people, I'll say white people. Um, gosh, it sounds so awkward saying that. But I just hate really like identifying people, white people, black people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they'll say to me, "Oh man, this is so tough. I don't see any color, da 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 da." And I always let them know, like, it's you do see color. If you didn't see color, then you would be like me. I don't see color. And the vision that I have is that I want everybody to see color, because I believe that color is what makes us beautiful as human beings, as people. We need color in the world. And just as much as we need people's strengths, we need people's weaknesses, their differences. We need all of those things because that's what makes this country and this world amazing. That's how we're able to accomplish so many things. That's how we're able to assist others when they're down and out and they feel certain emotions and feelings. We have the necessary skills and personality and attitude and like connection to be able to lift them up and help them. It's just the issue is when you see the color and it triggers you to treat a person a certain way or think about them a certain way. The vision that I have is for people to see color, to love seeing color, and to not have any sort of preconceived notions or any sort of attitudes or biases linked to those colors.
That'll do. That'll be a nicer world to live in, right?
Yeah.
Lex, there's two questions I've been asking of everybody on this season of Words with Friends. And my thing is words. And so I'm looking for an adjective from you, a describing word that would describe how you're feeling about the world right now. If you could pick one word to describe how you're feeling about the world right now, what would that one word be?
I would say, golly, that's a tough question, Phil. I would say pleading.
Tell me why.
I think that, of course, with the obvious, we're pleading to be heard, to be understood. We're pleading for justice. As someone who's Black, I think that even outside of that, we're always pleading in some capacity. I believe to be heard, to be understood. I feel like we're always, and that may not be with words. It could be with your actions. We're always, we're always at some point like plead for something. Like I want this. Like I need this. Pleading.
Final question of the interview. And again, I'm looking for a word. Think 12, 18, 24, 36 months on from now. Let's assume that your vision in some way comes closer to life. What might be a word to describe the world in which we are living in if things go according to plan in your vision over that timeline?
I would say that's another killer. I have the word and I'm trying to, it's like at the tip of my tongue. You know what? Love.
And why?
Love. We will get to the point where we truly understand what it looks like, what it feels like, what love is. It won't matter what color we are. It won't matter our abilities. It won't matter gender, any of those things. Whatever we have going on, people will literally be able to get out here and help and be their best selves simply because they know what love looks like, they know what it feels like, they know how to, act on it, they will exude it. It'll be a loving world.
Yeah, I want to live there with you, my friend. So Lex Gillette, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Words with Friends. If people want to follow your journey, learn more about the things that you do, more about the things that you've done, where should we point them to be able to understand more about the work that you do in the world and how they can continue the conversation with you?
Yes, you can. My website is lexgillette.com, LEXGILLETTE.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Everything is at Lex Gillette. So would love to hear from you. And I just want to say, Phil, thank you so much. You challenged me today, and that's always good. That's always good. I love a challenge.
Always good. Well, thank you for joining me on the show. I wish you all the success in all of the things that you're working on right now, in particular the upcoming Olympics. I want you to know that I'm cheering you on, not because I'm from the same country, not because I have the same skin tone as you, but I'm cheering you on because you're my friend, and I want to see you succeed. And I'm excited to see what kind of results that you're going to put out there when you get to perform in the games that have been sadly postponed.
No, it's all good. It's only postponed, not a cancellation, so I'll take that. But I appreciate you and thank you again for the time and yeah, wishing you all the best too as well in your endeavors. And I'm pretty sure our paths will cross again.
Thank you.